Hi and hello, football fans. It's your old pal Dave Dameshek. What's going down? I know all's well wherever you are. The playoffs are here. Well, I guess I don't know the playoffs. That you're doing well wherever you are if you're in Cincinnati right now or if you're in one of those other towns that didn't survive the wild card weekend. We are looking ahead, though, to the divisional round coming up for you. The wizard himself, Football Baby, is going to deliver his picks. We're going to make our picks for the 4 juicy divisional round games, and I do mean it. Well, 3 at least jump out at you as wonderful, and the 4th one could be a lot of fun. I'm talking about the Packers and Cardinals there. I think that's the one that most people feel like they have a handle on. Anyway, we're going to do that one. We'll talk a little bit of Rams to Los Angeles, Chip Kelly to San Francisco, so on and so forth. Let me remind you, we are presented, as always, by McDonald's, and let me remind you also, go get McPick. 2 items, 2 delicious items for just $2. I've picked 2 delicious items to join me in Studio 66. Let me introduce them to you right now. First of all, you watched him all year long. You read his work. So on and so forth, his reception perception stuff. It's Matt Harmon returning for what, the second time or third time? How are you?
Second time here.
Second time through. Still have that weird-looking beard that makes you look Mennonite because you're too blonde for the mustache. I see up close you have hair on your upper lip.
Yeah. It's even worse here with the mic in front of me now. They definitely can't even see like half of it.
Yeah, it's a weird look. It's not exactly.
It works out for me though.
Does it?
It does.
All right, maybe we'll have time to debate that. And then also, let's talk to my main man seated to my immediate left. Here he is all the way from London, England, still reeling a bit from the Adam Gase hire to his beloved Dolphins. We're not going to talk about that, though. We're going to talk about these playoffs here. It's Handsome Hank.
He's handsome Hank, he's handsome Hank, he's handsome Hank.
Hello, Handsome. How are you?
I'm very well indeed, thank you, Dave. That McPick got me thinking. I'm kind of hungry. Can I go quickly grab a McPick now?
No, we haven't the time, but you know what? We do. I'm glad you brought that up. We have here from a listener, belated, not in delivery, but in my receipt. This is what happens. Sometimes boxes at the NFL get misplaced or whatever. Somebody delivered this to me just yesterday. Go ahead, and it's from, well, read it. It's from Leon's Candy.
It says Leon's Candy from Nashville, established 1994. I'm all in. I love candy.
Go ahead and crack
Nashville.
That. Who's it from?
Oh, there's a message.
Yes.
It's from Chris Vlahos. I think that's how you say it. It says, "Happy holidays to the best NFL host with normal size ears."
I don't know.
That's
what that
cryptic.
means. I don't know what that means.
I don't know what that means.
Does Dan Hanzus have especially small ears or something?
He has interesting looking ears.
That looks delicious. Thank you very much, Chris.
I'm
we
gonna
appreciate
try.
that. Go ahead. Dig in on that
Do you
one.
mind if I dig in on? I'm gonna take these things.
Then
I have no idea what
that's
it's gonna
your
be.
hors d'oeuvre. Then we go to McDonald's
Okay.
as soon as we're finished here.
It's a deal.
Let's get into it right now. Who are you loving before the divisional round? Matt Harmon, you are a visitor, so I'm a gentleman. You get to start. Who you loving going in here?
That's very kind of you to let me go first. I'm loving the Carolina Panthers being back in the playoffs for the 3rd straight year.
Yes.
And a lot of people don't know this about me because I keep it quiet, but I am somewhat of a Panthers fan.
Really?
Yeah, my family's originally from Carolina, but I'm also a terrible fan because I don't do the struggle with the team. I don't even ride the mountaintop either. But I'm excited about this. I've got the Per Baca shirt that I ordered offline. You saw the team put a bunch of pictures of the players wearing them.
Oh, Per Baca.
yeah,
Oh,
look
I
at that.
love it. I want one of
Yeah,
those.
no, it's great. You can order them online too, and it goes to a good cause. Greg Olson runs a charity for kids with heart disease, and a lot of the proceeds go to that too.
Olson.
Yeah.
Olson's a good guy.
I got a lot of heat, by the way, from the Czech Republic after the Shecky Awards that Greg Olson was not one of the nominees for Best Football Playing Guest. He certainly was worthy, and in 2016, we fully intend to throw him a tailgate party. It's a sad tale. You know, of course, if you think about it for a second, you realize football players are busy playing games on game day, so they never get the tailgate. Let's fix that. Let's put that on the agenda. Some other good news as far as some of my New Year's resolutions for 2016 that I made, not for me, but for society. Good news to deliver on that front. Yes, I'm very excited for Cam Newton to see what he can do. And I just wish they were a little bit healthier there going into this one. But we'll talk about who's going to win that one. Handsome, how say you? Who you loving?
Dave, what I'm loving is, it's kind of obvious, and I apologize for pulling the obvious card here, but it's divisional playoff weekend. This is, for me at least, this is the best weekend of the year.
I said that for 2 decades, and now the wild card has sort of snuck up in the last decade. Still divisional round?
I don't agree.
Yeah.
I don't agree. I think divisional round is where the big boys come out to play. They've all been in hibernation for the last couple of weeks. Then you've got the exciting teams that won in wild card round that need to carry that momentum over. I actually used to be the other way. I used to say that conference championship weekend was the best, but I think the volume of games and the fact that there's some on Saturday, some on Sunday, and look, it's not good for me to say it in this building, so let's just hope no one's listening. I like red zone's cool, all right, but I love sitting down and watching a whole football game. I like the times when there's just one game on at once. You don't have to worry about the stuff that's happening in other games. There's 2 games on Saturday, there's 2 games on Sunday. You get to focus on those alone. This is the best day of the year.
You're right. You get the best of both worlds, which is wall-to-wall football to fill your weekend, but only one game, and it does, especially in a way, maybe it's even better in the 21st century with social media and everything, because the universal experience of watching it, now you can actually hear what people are saying. You can follow along on Twitter. We did all season long Game Day Blitz on NFL Now, and we're going to do it again on Sunday, so make sure you tune in for that. Bits and pieces. We have, Ike and Maurice Jones-Drew and Bucky and Colleen Wolfe, I believe, is going to be the group doing it again on Sunday for those 2 games or for a portion of them. Anyway, I'm with you completely. I still give I give divisional round weekend in the NFL the crown of best weekend in sport, more than the Thursday and Friday of March Madness or any stretch in the NBA or NHL playoffs or baseball. This is still the king, but here comes the wild card round. It is pretty good.
You just mentioned Colleen Wolfe. Poor Colleen Wolfe. I didn't realize, I hadn't considered that this would happen for her. She yesterday she was collecting some food in the huddle, which is where we can order food here, and they said, "We got an order for Colin," and then she went, "That's probably me," and the guy just handed it to her and said, "Thanks, Colin." Like, we wouldn't even consider that she might not be called Colin.
Something strange, though, that she's an Eagles fan.
Right.
And Chip Kelly just left her Eagles and now moves to San Francisco, where one Colin Kaepernick awaits. We'll talk about that in a second.
Well done.
By the way, when you said Carolina Panthers, it reminded me of this. Here's my grand idea for the Chargers, should they, in fact, wind up in Los Angeles sharing a stadium with the Rams, who have now arrived, to distinguish themselves a bit from a marketing standpoint and otherwise. No, they were the L.A. Chargers, then they were the San Diego. This time, let's go California Chargers. You know what? Doesn't that buy in more of the region? Isn't that a win for Southern California, for them to try and engage some of those Orange County people and San Diego people?
Well, the Southern California Chargers.
That's a
SCC.
That's kind of long.
That's too long.
But they're not the whole. They're not the Chargers for the
whole. By the way,
of
I love the Golden State Warriors. People don't celebrate that name nearly enough. I also love the New England Patriots. That was a cagey move. It includes New Hampshire and Vermont and Maine.
The Phoenix Cardinals became the Arizona Cardinals.
Yep, I think that's a savvy play.
The Titans are the.
Or if one of those 2 teams, Rams or Chargers, wants to go Hollywood Knights, spelled with a K, I always have said the Clippers should do that. They don't want to take it. Here's your chance. One of those 2 pro football teams. All right, who am I loving? Well, let's jump into it.
Good of you to ask.
Yeah, I'm loving the Rams' return to Los Angeles. As someone who lives in Los Angeles, this is going to be fun. It always seems sideways to me that the second biggest market, and not just the fact the city is large, but the fact of what we provide to the rest of the nation, nay, to the world, which is entertainment to be consumed via your television or your laptop or your movie screen, however you wish. Isn't it ironic that, people always say about Washington, D.C., hey, all week people are on either side of the aisle butting heads, but come Sunday, everybody rallies behind the local football team. And so you get that. Up in Wisconsin, they love their beer and cheese. They toil in the making your beer and your cheese. But then on Sunday, they put their feet up and they rally around their local football team. Why didn't we get to have that? Well, now it's fixed.
Now
we have that. Let's talk about a couple of things, because there are a couple of key issues, and I want you to hear me and hear me well, that we must resolve before we take too long. I did get a chance. You may have seen some pictures online as the week unfolded here. I got to meet up. The Rams are back as a team, and then a literal Ram came by NFL Media earlier in the week, and I took him around to reintroduce him to some of our colleagues. Well, I'm not going to show you the video today, but next day, the next show we do, next Tuesday, be on the lookout for this. Just a little spoiler alert. It turns out Maurice Jones-Drew and Handsome Hank are petrified of a Ram.
I wouldn't say petrified. That makes
Now,
it sound
you at
weird.
least touched it.
I touched it, but I have had bad experiences with Rams, as you'll discover.
Well, I hope you don't have bad experiences going forward. First thing that we have to kibitz about is, listen, what do we want to call this? Football fandom 101, something like that. The first order of business is, what are the uniforms going to be? I care very deeply about the get-ups that the teams wear. It's hard for me to support a team if they don't look good. Let's start off with the Rams real quick here. Take a look at what I sent out there, and if you're listening along, it is the 70s getup.
Yep.
And I don't want to confuse that with the 80s one, because this is the gold pants, flat, not shiny, understand. The nicely, ornately striped socks that they wore. The helmet, the key detail there. The gray face
mask.
The navy face mask. And I've talked with Chris Long, who's making the move from St. Louis to these parts here. We look forward to getting him in 66 when he arrives at some point. But he agrees, and he knows his uniforms. He and I have put our heads together and agreed. The gray face mask is where it's at. If for some reason they don't like that, and I know Demoff likes these already. He's on record as saying he likes the fearsome foursome get-ups. Let's take a look at those real quick. This is the white.
White and blue.
No gold to be found in these. And while I like them, that's
I don't think that's the Rams.
No, that's the Chargers, but those are grand as well with the black numbers on the side of the hats.
Yes,
I made my case
that's
for
pretty.
that. But the white ones,
The white and blue.
no gold. Now I get the concern, a little too colty. Here's my solution. Let's go with the first uniform, the gold, the flat colors, gray face mask, and then twice a year we'll break out the white and blues to honor the fearsome foursome in that era. How say you, fellas?
I'm more of a fan of the white and blues, actually. I think I'd go with that, and maybe just add, because I know that you're a classic, you love your classic uniforms. That's not going to happen. I think we've seen the way that the wind blows, that everyone wants to add a little something. Let's go with the white and blue, and then let's see if we can add something different, something unique to those white and blues to bring.
We
them
have to
into
be
the
very
modern era.
specific on that
But
front, because you
specific-
say, hey, add some jazzy.
No, not jazzy.
And that's when
I'm
you get,
talking about.
That's when you start getting stripes up the side of the jersey.
I'm talking about maybe around the Ram's horn on the helmet. Maybe you just you trace the yellow around there or something like that. Just something to bring it into a new era.
Black tie behind the glass. Get Demoff and Long in here for a blue ribbon panel to discuss this matter. But we can't go
Makes
forward.
sense.
I mean, what are we going to do? We're going to start worrying about free agency and the draft and everything else before we resolve this? This is issue number one. Do you agree, Harmon?
I like the gold and the blue, and I agree that aesthetics are number one. As you can see, I put myself together pretty well.
You do. You do.
And it's
You
important.
make the best of a
what I got. Yeah.
questionable situation. Go ahead.
That's
You're
rough.
very rude host.
I'm going to take that one to heart. But no, I think that
Look, he blushed. He actually blushed.
Yeah, that was because you were rude.
I
to
was
him.
making- it was a
I
little-
was wisecracking.
I know, but sometimes that can be hurtful.
it's only my second time here. I can,
Harmon,
if I'm ugly, I'm not getting invited back. That's what I've learned.
That's right. There you go.
Yeah, but seriously, I think that aesthetics are important, and if you can't, you're right. You can't go forward without knowing what you're going to look like. It's like going out on a date and like you're just wearing a T-shirt or something. You can't do that. You have to look good. You have to present yourself well.
Yeah. So I guess we're all agreed. And the irony for both the Rams and Chargers is neither team has ever had a worse uniform than the one they're wearing currently, or the one they wore in 2015. Those are both bad uniforms, and there's so much to work with there. The iconic horns. That was, of course, the first team.
Right.
If you don't know that, that's the first team in the NFL to put a logo on the side of their hat, and it was those Rams horns. Now the Chargers, real quick. I don't think there's a ton to discuss here. The world over agrees. The powder blue
Yes.
with the white hat. Black numbers. Don't do the gold pants, though. Do the white pants to go along with it.
If you're not going to do that, and I agree with you, that's the right thing to do. Let's go back to that the 80s Chargers, which had the blue and the white.
Late 70s,
late
early
70s,
80s,
early
the Air
80s.
Coryell
Yeah, yeah.
era.
Yeah.
Dan Fouts, right. The gold pants.
Gold pants.
They would wear
They
the
were a
white
little
jersey.
ornate. There was quite a lot going on there, but I still like them. And I think if you're going to do that, you go. Remember, Fouts always, for some reason, Fouts had more bigger holes than the average jersey had in. You know what I mean? Like the thing that was to let it breathe.
I think a man of his carriage, his jersey was a little too tight, and it stretched those
maybe
holes
a
to
bit.
To the end of what they were capable of bearing.
I'm a medium. Fouts
I
insists.
I will say, though, I'm with you on those Chargers ones. Just remember, and this is what the current Chargers miss on, the current look misses on. The lightning bolt is the pants stripe. It replaces the need to have conventional stripes on it. You don't put the lightning bolt and then bracket it with another stripe. That is the stripe. You get that, Harmon?
I completely agree with you. It seems needless.
I want to get to these games here. I want to get into the divisional round, but real quick, a couple things. I've said this a million times. The football gods aren't making up for lost time, people. You don't get to root for the Rams and the Chargers. You must choose one and hate the other one. You at best you can only be apathetic towards the other one.
Right.
You're not allowed to. You don't get both teams, right? Are we agreed on that?
I would agree on that.
But here's my question, and I've already admitted that I'm a questionable fan at best. I like the Panthers. Again, I don't know if I can call myself a fan, but I like the Panthers. Am I also allowed to support
AFC.
Oh, okay. So
only the AFC.
So I can't support the Rams then,
No.
because that would be the team that I would pick.
No.
But that seems stupid. Why am I?
Take the Rams, but you can't be a fan of. You can't be a Panthers fan too.
Well,
But
see,
if he's just a moderate fan of the Panthers, then it doesn't really matter what he does at this point.
Then the Panthers are no longer a team that you root for.
I support them. I want them to win, but I don't carry the emotional baggage.
I just want to make it clear too, by the way. I don't want to be rigid about this. You're allowed to take the 2016 season to render your decision, but by New Year's, about 11 and a half months from now, you do need to decide and then support that team and shame the devil if you try to root for both of them.
I
yes,
like
Black Tie. Oh, okay. Black Tie wants us to move on. Oh, one more thing. Are you going to raise your child handsome? We have little boys. I have Jean-Claude Van Dameshek. You have your little boy about the same age. Where are you now on forcing him into rooting for one of these local teams or your Dolphins?
I would push for the Dolphins. That doesn't change. But that said, if we went to some games and I would probably root for the Chargers over the Rams because I prefer have a feeling for the Chargers more than the Rams. I would that would be fine. It's a home team.
It's weird. You're a Dolphins fan, yet the Chargers in the greatest playoff game of all time. Defeated in overtime. Rolf Benershka made the field goal against Don Strock and Tony Nathan and all those guys.
Hook and ladder.
1982, the greatest divisional round game, certainly. You don't know that reference,
1982,
Matt
that's like
the greatest game.
Oh, here we go. The kids.
The game of all
nothing
time.
matters if you're
9 years before I was born.
That is not the standard. I know who Jim Brown is. He didn't play in my lifetime. I know who he is.
That seems, but that's easy to know.
But it doesn't matter. It's a great game. It's like saying I don't watch any movie. I mean, it's like
people.
taking Black Tie's lead and not watching a movie before you were born.
Millennials
can't
are
be
the
good
worst.
Enough.
Yeah, I take exception to that. Because I do not group myself with all the other millennials. This is just
I do.
Well, that's harsh. Again, this is the second time my feelings have been hurt on this podcast so far. And no, but I just think that there's so much to revel in today's NFL, and I put so much of that into my brain that if I start trying to consume that other stuff, I will, like with other sports, we've talked about this before, I don't know anything about baseball, and I don't care to, because if I start putting any more of that information into my brain, I'll start losing important things like where I live. I'd be wandering around the streets of Los Angeles like, where am I, who am I, where am I?
I can respect that. I have the same stance against math beyond long division.
Right.
Why school?
Completely
Why the man
reasonable.
required me to know about that crap?
I don't know with the long division part as well. You always insist on. When did you use that last?
You're right. That's why I'm on the fence on long division.
I lost it.
I think you need to know your times tables up through 11 or maybe 12.
9.
After 10,
11's
self-evident.
Easy. 10,
11's
easy.
As long as you can do
12's
percentages, you're
12's
fine.
different.
Let's get to it right now. We're going to start picking these games here, but you know what? Got to have respect for what this cat's done, man. This guy's gone 68. And wait, last count, I think he is now 67 and 28 lifetime. For real. Picking the hard games. Well, the divisional round, there's no wiggle room here. No easy picks here.
No easy picks.
Maybe that Arizona game. Let's see what the master, Football Baby, has cooked up for us in the divisional round. Take it away.
Football Baby, the baby who picks football games.
Oh, hello, Football Baby. Are you ready to get down to business? Kansas City Chiefs, New England Patriots, choose! It is trucks upon trucks. But who will ride off into the title game? Seattle Seahawks, Carolina Panthers, the Seahawks. Well, I don't know now. Green Bay Redbirds, choose. The Cardinals advance. Oh, an ambulance appropriate for Big Ben and Peyton. Who will win a mile high? Steelers, Broncos, choose. The Steelers did it.
Football, baby.
Woo! What a relief at the end there for
Yeah.
me as a Steelers fan. Those are all authentic. Let me remind all the cynics out there, there is no rigging there. I have, on occasion, really only about 4 or 5 times over the last 2 years, had to rig it so that he does pick the Steelers after he makes a mistake and takes the other team.
But he
down.
knows how to please his dad.
That was
I mean, as
for
soon as
real.
the look in his eye then was like, yeah, I know what I have to do.
That
with
was
this.
all for real, and if you are a Panthers fan and you question that, I did go on just for time. We cut it there a little bit before I said I don't know about that. We did. It went for another 2 minutes, and he does eventually and clearly pick the Seahawks over the Panthers.
Okay.
Why I have to explain what a 1-year-old baby is picking to the cynics out there? I don't know what. All right, let's get to very important stuff right now, and before we give our own picks on these divisional round games, starting off with Chip Kelly. The coaching carousel is starting to wind down as a lot of these positions are filled now. Hugh, as you know, goes to Cleveland. That's a great hire. I think the Dolphins missed the boat there, as a matter of fact. We talked about that earlier in the week. I know, Handsome, you agree with that one. Let's talk Chip Kelly, and of course, McAdoo winds up where he should, because had they gone in any other direction, you basically have to reboot Eli
start
going
again.
into year
Right.
13, and you remember how that went a couple of years ago. It took a while for Eli to get rolling.
I
in
still think
McAdoo's
it may not work out, but
Maybe not. But I think that was sort of, they forced themselves into this position by letting Coughlin go. And in fact, had they retained Coughlin, they probably lose McAdoo, who probably would be a hot candidate elsewhere. Let's talk Chip Kelly, though. Harmon, I start with you. Good fit here?
Yeah, I think it is a good fit because what we all kind of regard as the downfall of Chip Kelly was his personnel decisions, and he won't have to do that in San Francisco. Trent Baalke, allegedly, of course. I'm sure he'll have some input, but I do think that Trent Baalke does not want to give up all that power.
he definitely doesn't.
No, so that's a good thing, and I think that Chip has a good system in place that worked for 2 years before Chip Kelly, the GM, got Chip Kelly, the coach, fired, in my opinion. So, and I think there is some interesting talent to work with. Carlos Hyde is a good running back.
Sure.
Torrey Smith can get over the top. Perhaps he does a little bit of what Jackson and Macklin did for that team. They just have to figure out the quarterback position, but I think it's a good start. I'm glad that Chip Kelly got a second.
It's funny if you compare it to USC football, as a for instance. They have forever, since Pete Carroll walked away, tried to hold on to that air as much as they can. They keep bringing in these assistants, and they still can't fully remove themselves from this. I think the Niners have made a hard right turn away from the Harbaugh era. They are not depending on rugged defense and grinding you on the ground. This is a pretty sharp turn away from that, and I don't know how many of those pieces that remain are going to be excited about playing in that system, given that they're on the field 35, 40 minutes a game the way they are. But the bigger issue is Colin Kaepernick. What do you think here? I spit out on Twitter when the announcement was made, oh, great news for Colin Kaepernick, but maybe not, Hans.
I don't know. I mean, there seems to be something around Chip Kelly that, and I think it's because of the quarterbacks you saw him have at Oregon, that people expect that he needs that athletic guy, but I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think
Clearly not with
I think
Bradford and Foles.
Right, he wants someone that is a somewhat of a threat to run, but more important is that they're accurate and they can make reads and do all the things that they need to throw the ball. I don't think that helps Colin Kaepernick. Colin Kaepernick regressed through Harbaugh's last year and then obviously last season to the point that he was benched. He can't hit guys. He can't hit guys if they're moving. He can't hit guys if they're covered. He's very inaccurate, and I just don't think it is going to work particularly well for Chip Kelly's offense.
I agree. I'm on the fence about what Chip Kelly wants to do, and it's been debated now for 4 or 5 years exactly what his philosophy is out there, and of course it's quick strike and all that sort of thing, and run the ball a great deal. Well, so with Carlos Hyde,
I think Carlos Hyde is going to be the best.
I agree.
We'll gain from this the most.
It almost feels like, remember how good, I mean, it feels forever ago, but remember how good he looked early before the injury bug started biting him this season. But I do think Chip Kelly ideally likes for his quarterback to be able to put pressure on the edge of the defense as a potential runner. Not to say that he wants his QB running 20 times a game, but he does like that threat. And a lot of what Chip Kelly has his pass catchers do is run skinny posts. A lot of the time you'll see 4 guys run skinny posts. That seems to lend itself to what Colin Kaepernick does well
to
too.
hit those routes, though, you need a lot of
You need to be able to touch.
anticipation.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing that Kaepernick struggled with, in my opinion. When I charted Crabtree and Stevie Johnson for reception perception in 2014, those guys were consistently getting separation on timing routes, but then Kaepernick wasn't able to anticipate it, so he'd miss those guys and just throw it to Bolden on a curl, when he's completely covered, because that's just what he defaulted to.
Kaepernick does not like people moving.
No.
It feels like he needs someone to run around and then stand there.
I wonder if Gabbert isn't a better fit,
Right.
because he showed some athleticism, that long touchdown run against the Bears, and a few times our next-gen stats showed him as one of the fastest quarterbacks in the NFL. So,
boy, we could do a whole show easily. We could spend the next 90 minutes talking about what all this means for Kaepernick, RG3, and Johnny Football. And with all those names out there that are sexier names, Blaine Gabbert might be the most coveted QB that's out there. If the not, it'll be interesting to see what Balky and Chip decide upon here. Speaking of Chip, let's move to the next important item here, and that is, as I said, I made a couple of weeks ago, I made some New Year's resolutions. I'm too broken to fix at this point. There's nothing I'm going to do to make myself. It's only, incremental, minor degrees to, like I said about Harmon, to fix my grotesque self. But for society, though, I feel like I'd like to leave the big blue marble better than I found it. And one thing I called for, well, I always want to try to have better uniforms in sport. I think we're making some strides there, and we'll continue to do that. 2, I've called for stuffing to be on every menu year-round. Why is something so delicious relegated to just once a year here in the US of A? Not so in the UK. They're on the right that's right, Handsome.
It is.
I can give compliments to your people.
Yep.
But big news is I declared a couple of years ago, and then I put, I declared that we need to do this as a society, and now it looks like everybody's catching up with us here. No more plates. Let's go with bowls from here on out. Why go? What? And I'm not just saying that because of Chip. Chips go better in a bowl, and we're talking Chip Kelly. Outside of a steak, what food is better served on a plate? Am I right? Handsome, how say you?
I mean, you're going to need to define bowls. I have some bowls at home. So I have 4 different types of bowl at home. I have a very classic, small bowl, which I like to pour cereal into and put milk in there. And it's pretty small, but you couldn't get, if you put a piece of fish in there or whatever.
You're going to have to have.
Okay, so that we're just listening.
All right, I'm just
Then
saying,
I've got
I'm
the
up
next
with you.
bowl. The next size bowl is shaped like this. It's a little bit wider. And it's pretty versatile. It could do anything. You could use it for your cereal. You could use it for your fish. I've also then got like a pasta bowl, which is bigger. You wouldn't put your cereal in there because it's so broad. It would just look strange in there. And you pour the milk in, there would be just that much milk in the bottom. So you've got to define which type of bowl.
Well, I think you just answered it. You can have a
There are so
versatile
many different
collection.
types. That's the point.
But you know what? They make bowls now that are really nice and big, and I don't think whatever you're talking about, that you need the little bowl.
No.
I don't think you need that one. I don't think that's a requirement. I think you could serve pretty much everything if you have a nice big bowl.
Yeah, you know what I've found as well recently? I've had to start using sporks permanently because a bet that I made. I found in the same way. I don't know why you would go back to a fork.
Interesting. So bowls it is, Harmon.
Yeah, I agree.
I
have a big, large bowl, and I eat almost 90% of my
There you
meals
go.
out of there.
You just can't cut steak. That's the only thing. You can't. If you have to take a sharp knife to something, that's the only time. But you can have a couple plates.
Yeah, I get it.
Everybody has more plates than they have bowls in their house. Let's reverse that.
I'm with you on this one.
Last thing, real quick, Harmon, before we start making our picks here, is like I say, you do the very popular online reception perception. Give a link to that. Give a shout out to it.
Yeah, I'm going to be doing a lot of that in the off season, and you can find it on my website, which is thebackyardbanter.com. That's where it all started.
Wow, what a shill for himself. But yes,
Just
as,
told me to do
You
it.
invited him to do
as
it.
an authority on pass catching and such, we talked about it earlier in the week. I maybe got a little over my skis when Martavis Bryant got a little over his head with that catch in Cincinnati last Saturday night. What's the best catch of all time in your book?
It's chalky.
It was a catch, Hanson.
I think it was a catch too, and it was
Definitely
a great one.
was.
I love Martavis and I think I talked about that last time on the show. But to me, it's chalky, but it's the Odell Beckham catch. It was a defining moment, the beginning of his journey to the ascension of the tops of the league. Even you talk about reception perception. Before that, I charted the couple games, and I said, this guy's about to explode. Before that catch, that was the game before that, and then he makes that catch. So for me, it's gratifying personally. And just in general, it was a tremendous moment where we all saw it. It was on like an island game, as we were talking about earlier, and just the concentration and athleticism that he showed.
But I'm with you on almost everything, except I don't care that everybody saw it. We were all watching. We were all watching on Saturday night too.
This is true, but I don't know. To me, that's more clear. Like Hansom's arguing that the other one's not a catch. I don't think you can argue that was a catch.
That's a catch.
As a man of honor, and as I learned from the late, great Jerry Orbach at the end of Dirty Dancing, when I'm wrong, I say I'm wrong. This one is especially painful to have to say because Black Tie, as soon as we finished that show, go back and listen to it. It was a pretty good debate talking about a variety of catches over the last 25 years or so. Black Tie made a good point as soon as we heard, and I think he's right about it. Go ahead, Black Tie.
Well, the point is that Martavis Bryant could still have caught the ball and not did all that. Did all the shenanigans afterwards.
Clean. He could have just shot it clean.
Exactly.
Right.
Odell had to pull off what he did to make that catch. Nobody else. For everybody else, that ball is not in catch radius. Odell made it part of it.
Well, Brent Grimes would have something to say about that.
Oh, that was a pretty good one.
Touche. I think I back off that. So I'm officially, what's that called? Redacting
Either.
my thought that Martavis, although, I mean, it certainly goes down as one of the, I'm not going to take it off the table. Still top 10 catch of all
Most
time. But that's
questionable
right.
catch.
He should have caught it clean. In fact, another Steelers receiver, Lynn Swann, will often say about his most iconic catch that wasn't his best catch in Super Bowl X, the one that you have seen ad nauseum, where he's falling over the Cowboys defender and bobbling the ball. If you look at it, he really should have caught it cleanly, and then he wouldn't have had all that. But then again, maybe he wouldn't be in the Hall of Fame, and that's not hyperbole. Those catches he made in those Super Bowls is why he's in the Hall of Fame.
I know those are before my time, and I know those. So.
The number of times you see them, though, in highlight reels, that makes it happen.
I'm going to move on. Black Tie wants me to move on. But Black Tie, do you know who David Bowie is?
Of course I do, yes.
All right, well, a lot of other people who we work with, when I was asking that around the digital editors, did not know who David Bowie was.
How do you not know who David Bowie is?
I don't know. I don't want to call people out by name like D'Angelo, but D'Angelo didn't know who he was.
Oh, yeah, D'Angelo's young. You know,
I don't care about young. I know who Beethoven is.
Yeah.
He wasn't making his music when I was alive.
Well, that is surprising, though, because
Buddy Holly wasn't around when I wasn't here for Buddy Holly. I know who he is. Don't know who David Bowie is. Well, I wasn't born when he was. What? Why? Only the millennials float that one.
There we go. There we go. Come on.
Only millennials. Well, I wasn't alive when that happened.
That's not fair. Again, you're grouping I take an offense to this because this is my generation, and it is kind of awful to have to cape up for this generation. But at the same time, I know who David Bowie is. I know who all these cultural references are. It's just about the football stuff.
All right. Let's get to it. Ready to sing, everybody. Here's our setup. The divisional round. Time for the Red Challenge Flag Picks. Red Challenge Flag Picks. I didn't know if you really were into that, Harmon. Did you give it your all?
I was into it.
Do it like Bowie would do it. Ready? 1, 2, 3, go.
Just me?
Yes, you.
Yeah, just you.
As Bowie.
Red Challenge Flag Picks.
Red Challenge Flag Picks.
Oh, it was awful.
Red Challenge Flag Picks. How would Bowie do it, Handsome? Red Challenge Flag Picks.
Yeah.
Stay in your lane, man. I'm staying in my lane. That's not my lane.
I'm not a singer either.
Let's get to it here. We start off in Foxborough, Massachusetts. Kansas City Chiefs. New England Patriots. Matt Harmon choose.
Going with the Chiefs.
Handsome, how say you?
Dave?
Yeah?
See this?
Yes?
Staying right here.
Picking
the Chiefs as well.
I would like some heat today.
I know. We'll do our best. Last week, I got them all right. And if you remember, our friend Matt Gothard tried to throw a red challenge flag at me, missed. Then tried again, missed again. And it doesn't matter because he was wrong about it. in the end as well. So kind of missed 3 times.
That was embarrassing.
That was embarrassing.
That was one of the low points in the long history of the DDFP.
It was. I think that the Chiefs, I think they're going to have a hard time without Jeremy Maclin, and they're going to be facing a Patriots team where, by all accounts, Julian Edelman is back and is healthy. Although weirdly, Gronk seems to have missed 2 days of practice, which doesn't bode well for them. Although it sounds like he'll play, but I think that the Chiefs front 7 is going to put a lot of pressure on Tom Brady behind that line that had like 19 different people starting on it this year.
The trick is really not as important, but there are injury concerns. I think Gronk number 1, Edelman number 2, but Sebastian Vollmer's availability is huge in this one with an offensive line that hasn't blocked anybody. When you're talking about the pass rushers that KC's going to have, and by the way, on the back end, I keep talking about it, but they're loaded back there.
They are loaded.
I wouldn't be surprised, and all the players keep telling me, no, that's not going to happen, Dave. But I don't think it's going to be Derek Johnson and Eric Berry. Maybe some of that, but I do think you're going to see Sean Smith.
Sean Smith is the guy.
Match up.
Sean
with,
Smith is
Gronkowski.
6'2".
That's a perfect
6'1",
matchup.
6'2". Exactly. He's athletic. He's big. I think he's the guy that you try and cover Gronk.
Full disclosure, as we get into all 4 of these picks, I'm going to take the Chiefs here. The chief reason.
Whoa.
Nailed it.
The chief reason I'm taking the Chiefs, though,
is
because they were my preseason Super Bowl pick to play the Seahawks. So I'm going to go with them for that.
And
I do
Dave,
like their ability.
Wait, hold on. 2 weeks ago, last week, you told us you can change. You don't have to stick with that, guy. By the way, analysts, you don't have to stick with that. You can change your idea.
You don't have to.
Do you believe the Chiefs are going to win this game, or are you just doing it because you are literally going against exactly what you said a week ago?
I believe this, that Brady can negate the pass rush so long as Edelman's out there. He can just throw those bubble screens and negate that. I think that the Chiefs, a la the Ravens, what was that, 5 years ago when they went into Foxborough and banged them real good on the ground all day long and they had no answer. I think the Chiefs might be able to do that. In my gut, though, Edelman, Gronk, Brady, 2 weeks to figure this thing out. I mean, I think we're being crazy. I wouldn't be surprised if it's 17-0, 20-0 with 10 minutes left in the second quarter. Patriots.
The Chiefs are a good team.
I think they're very good too.
I was thinking about this yesterday. Like all these other 3 teams in the AFC, there's some blood in the water with each of them. The Chiefs are coming in the healthiest, except Maclin, but they also have pretty good like tertiary players on offense. Albert Wilson's one of my favorite little unknown receivers in the NFL. Love that guy. He's a really good player that nobody knows about. And Spencer Ware has been legit during the last like month and a half, really. So I don't know. I could see this team going all the way. I'm kind of on the bandwagon with you.
Just real quick, a few things that I know we've talked about, but in the last couple weeks and months, but they bear repeating. I want to make these things. First, people who say Alex Smith can't get a team to a Super Bowl are forgetting that he essentially did in the stick against the Giants a few years back. Kyle Williams fumbled that away. But that team really would have gone to the Super Bowl, and then it does change what we would perceive Alex Smith to be and what would have happened to Colin Kaepernick had Alex Smith taken them to a Super Bowl. Who knows how that all would have shaken out. But Alex Smith is good enough to do that. He can put pressure on defenses, obviously, with his legs. That's old news as well at this point. I think the Maclin absence is massive. I don't think that can be overstated. However, we talk about what are the factors, and I love talking to the football guys who've gotten to the Super Bowl. What really? Well, all this rhetoric. What is the myth and what's the reality of what you need? You can't get to a Super Bowl without blank. And there are a million. The list runs about 673 items long, but the reality is there are actually only so many. You don't have to have one of the 5 or 6 best QBs. It certainly helps you do that if you look at who's won the Super Bowl in the 21st century. It tends to be Brady, Manning, Roethlisberger, Rodgers, Russell Wilson. There are a couple other guys that don't make that list, but you can get it done. I think here and now, as boring as it sounds, depth is everything, and I think the Chiefs have that. I think the Chiefs are. I think they can survive those hits that some other teams can't. So I give the Chiefs a puncher's chance in this one. I'm taking the Patriots. I'm taking the Chiefs, but deep down, I know the Patriots are going to.
Deep down, you're in. Tom Brady, Bill Belichick.
I'm taking the Chiefs. Chiefs. That's my official pick.
Next one.
This one we can be fairly brisk on, unless you want to convince me. Go ahead, Handsome. Packers.
Cardinals.
Choose Cardinals.
Just gonna leave those right there.
Those red birds,
What are
red
we-
flags staying together.
Go ahead, Harmon. I mean, say what I'm going to say. What are you going to? Well, I'll say it. We saw the game a couple
Right.
weeks ago. What's going to be different this time?
They're the better team.
Yeah.
All around, personnel-wise, coaching-wise, in my opinion, and their quarterback is playing better. And they have David Johnson and John Brown and all these exciting young talents that the Packers don't have right now.
I mean,
even last week
simple
when
as that,
people got
right?
excited, oh look, Aaron Rodgers is back. Aaron Rodgers was not back to his best. Aaron Rodgers in the first quarter was dreadful.
Yes.
And I just don't have faith in them.
Too many drops from his pass catchers. Eddie
He's
Lacy,
throwing.
the
He's
roll
suddenly
of the dice.
inaccurate. He looks like he doesn't look like himself.
Does
And-
not look confident in the guys around him.
The other thing too to remember that people swoon rightly so over Carson Palmer and the passing attack, but just remember, even without the Honey Badger, that defense still is among the very best in the league, and that'll give Aaron Rodgers and company trouble. Next up, the one game I wanted to see in all these playoffs: Seahawks, Panthers, Harmon, choose. Oh, your beloved
That
now.
says
There
it
they
all.
are.
Your beloved
The
Panthers.
Panthers are your choice. Handsome house.
You know he was a Seahawks fan last year.
Now that you
So it
didn't
must
even-
be tough. It must be tough for you to.
Who black tie? That's
Neither
a
of
question
these-
for another day.
neither
Who's
of these
black
men
tie
knew
gonna
I
root for
existed
with all
last
these
year.
football
Right.
teams to choose from in Southern California now. Handsome, how say you?
I am picking the Panthers, but this is the toughest game I think of the whole season that we've had to pick. I could easily. I mean, like, we've seen it so many times. Russell Wilson comes into these type of games, makes incredible plays somewhere along in the second half, and they pull out a win. The first time these teams played this season, it was outstanding, but the Panthers are going to win it.
All right, these guys have made their official picks. Now I'm going to do what Black Tie and Handsome have charged me with doing all season long, and I am going to pick both. I'm taking both teams. I'm taking the Seahawks because it's my preseason pick.
But wait! You said last week.
I know what
you
I said.
called people idiots for not
Right.
thinking they could change their picks.
Do as I say, not as I do. How about that?
I mean,
that's something else I just said.
They've
How about this? I'm taking them because they're my preseason pick, the Seahawks. And it certainly won't surprise me if they go down there and win, of course. But the Panthers win, and here's why. And this is assuming they have 100% Jonathan Stewart. That offense is
Right.
more potent, obviously, with 28 back there, just as the Seahawks are better with Marshawn Lynch. The defense in Carolina is, in fact, a little bit better. I don't know about the back end. It's a question now with the two of their top three DBs down. But here's the factor. You know how the Seahawks, the statistics say that if you just played the Seahawks the following week, your record is terrible? That same thing is going to hurt the Seahawks this time. They just played in -10 or whatever against a hard-hitting Vikings team. They're not going to be right for this one. This is now in the worst conditions for your body to play in that frigid temperature, getting banged around all day long in a low-scoring game up there in the Twin Cities. Now they're jumping a plane and going down here to play this team. Boy, that's just a recipe for not your best game ever, and that's what's going to happen to them, and that's what's going to do them. The Panthers are going to bring it too, as I say. I'll take Cam and company to get over the hump. This is their year to at least win a playoff game in advance and see how far they can go. Black Tie says in my ear, why don't you be a man and say it on the microphone, Black Tie? Why don't you say it like a man and say he's busy working.
He's busy working.
What's he
doing?
He's lifting a helmet
What's he doing back there?
Working to hold a helmet
Matt
up
Harmon,
over your
Matt
head.
Harmon's shaking his head. I mean, sorry, not Matt Gothard's shaking his head like Black Tie doesn't do any work.
All right, last up here, Pittsburgh Steelers. Denver Broncos, handsome choose.
Dave,
Yes?
I think the Steelers are going to win this game.
Oh, Matt Harmon, how say you?
Well, unfortunately, I've got to pick this up and to toss it at you there.
Oh, you should have thrown it a little bit harder.
You should have done.
I'm a nicer guy.
It's the one red flag of the week. We appreciate our pal Andrew Raby or
Yeah.
Rabby who tracks
He
that
tracks
every week.
it.
You were undefeated last week.
I was
Andrew.
undefeated
Really
and
challenged
won
like
a one.
that. Explain yourself, Harmon.
Listen, I think that Denver is coming in the healthier team. You've got injuries to Antonio Brown. If he plays, that's kind of a game changer. Unfortunately, D'Angelo Williams, one of my favorite Panthers ever, is probably going to miss this game as well. Roethlisberger is banged up. I don't have a lot of faith right now in the Steelers health-wise, and the Broncos, I think, are coming in rested. I think Manning is a boost for them. That not everybody's going to agree with that, but I think they'll play better football with him, and I think that he's got good matchups on the outside with his two tremendous receivers.
I think, okay, so let me give my pick. Again, I'm going to take the Steelers because I have to take the Steelers. At this point in the season, I'm required to. in my gut, I think we're going to see the Patriots at the Broncos again, and I think I speak for most football fans in saying, boo! Turn the page. It's time for something new. But I do think deep down that's what's going to happen. However, here's why the Steelers have a chance. I'll give you a couple of reasons. One, Timmons and Shazier, if they can continue to heat things up the way they have for the last 6 weeks, they're getting to everybody. They're putting heat on the QB. They are covering the short game, the short passing game. What's Peyton going to try and do? He's going to try and throw the ball over the middle. And who inhabits that space? Those two guys. So I think those are the twin X factors for the Steelers having some success. And by the way, Peyton Manning, I always say, no QB likes inside pressure. Peyton really doesn't like it to the extent that he doesn't even try and slide past that inside pressure. You've seen him even at the height of his prime.
He goes fetal.
He would go fetal. Let's move on to the next play. So you might see some of that. If Peyton jumps on him early, which is certainly a possibility, the game will be over fairly quickly. If this one goes for any amount of time and it's close, I say it, if you are naive, if you do not think Clayton Kershaw, Tony Romo, Peyton Manning, Andy Dalton don't have it rattling around in their head that I must come through because I have failed and people don't think I do and I have a chip on my shoulder about that. If you don't think that's in his head, and if you don't think especially 18, in what might be his last NFL game, that he doesn't have some additional pressure that he's putting on himself, he can say, I don't care, you can put that narrative wherever you don't want. Peyton knows deep down that does get into his head like it does any human being. Only the very, very best are really so steely-minded that they can erase that kind of stuff. But most human beings, including the very best athletes on the face of the earth, feel some of that heat. That's what I'm banking on, and that's not has nothing to do with X's and O's matchups or anything else. 7 does it in the postseason, or has done it on occasion at least, hurt or otherwise. I don't think Peyton's a choker. I want to extend the olive branch, Broncos fans, because you always misconstrue. I don't think Peyton's a choker. I don't think his style lends itself to postseason success. Greg Maddux, Tom Glavine effect.
It didn't lend itself, and the thing that might just make the difference for him here is that Peyton's style, what we've considered Peyton's style for the last 16 years, isn't the same thing now.
Ike Taylor
this Peyton Manning is not that Peyton Manning.
On that front, you may be right. Ike Taylor said the same thing, that maybe that month or whatever, sitting down, really let Peyton know.
And the game plan as well. It's going to be handoffs. It's going to be little screens. It's going to be
C.J. Anderson, big game.
Well, I mean,
not going to be cold there either. Apparently 45 degrees, 47
I heard 35 last
Oh, really?
week. That's a major factor.
No
as
snow.
well. It is ironic that you have these two Hall of Fame QBs with all the pelts on the wall, and neither guy can throw the ball 11 yards. So, I mean, that's going to be played in very tight quarters. All right. I can't wait for it. I hope you enjoy all the games. I know you fellas are going to enjoy it. Make sure you check out Game Day Blitz on Sunday. We'll be doing some of that. Shek Report, everybody's doing their picks, NFL.com, NFL Network, so on and so forth. Check it out. Thanks, Matt Harmon. Great stuff. Thanks, everybody behind the glass. All that's left is for us to put our feet up and enjoy these playoff games, right, everybody?
Let's do that.
Let's do it. We'll talk to you after the divisional round.
Oh, you didn't mean literally?
No, literally, if you'd like to put your feet up. In the meantime, we'll talk to you before the championship games. Get you ready for those. Thanks so much, football fans. It's been a thin slice of heaven. I'm throwing the red challenge flag at that blonde mustache.
Find out more on the next DDFP.